Here's a few of my settings that you were asking about. Um, okay, let me give me a second here to organize my thoughts real quick. Um, and basically, it's a combination of three things. It's a combination of NAC, which is natural atmospheric weather. Um, it's reshade, and it's textures. It's kind of really three things. The textures are, and there's quite a few of them because in the process of throwing this mod together or throwing this modded game together, I was downloading a lot of files. I came, like a lot of mods. I came across some that I thought, oh, that'd be pretty cool. I threw them in. Some of them are still in here. A lot of field conflicts haven't necessarily been resolved yet. Um, but other than that, let's go through here and find. Let's see. One of the first things that I added was. Let's do this. This would be faster to do it this way. Okay. So if you take a look here, I actually have more textures than what you see installed in this section. Okay. One of the first ones I believe was by Neil MC NMC. It was a texture pack, and it replaced the vanilla texture files. So the BA2 files were replaced, directly replaced with these 2K enhanced textures. I do not use the HD textures from Bethesda at all. So one of my problems I had was the frame rates to me were a little bit too low for the game, and I get it's unoptimized, and also the um, the textures. It should be able to handle it just fine. So I wanted to replace specular maps and other things like that with more reasonable sized DDS files, more reasonable sized mapping files. So the whole one of the initial reasons to to change your textures to something that would be third party, a community mod would be that it provides it'll increase your frame rates because it provides textures that are corrected, have a better decompression algorithm, so it's not quite as lossy as some of the other compression algorithms, so the textures will look better. And also it provides more reasonable size mapping files. That's one of the primary things. Another thing was the textures just look better. You can take a look at NMC textures, and like let's say Valius is also in there, and it just looks better. And that was the idea behind the OVT, which was optimized vanilla textures. But I actually took it out. I took it out of my load order, so it's still installed, but it's not in my load order. So the plugin is not replacing the textures as I went for a direct replacement. That is overridden by, because those are actually in a BA2 file, that is overridden by Valius. So Valius provides limited textures to certain things, like I believe brick. You'll have to look it up, but I think it's like brick and other things. And you could even use EMB with some of the, it's not specular, I forget the term they use right now, but it actually gives you a lot more depth to a 2D image. I changed the vault objects to dark sci-fi. It looks much better, and literally there's enough community mods out there to where you can make a game. They even have aliens you can put in it. You could do all of that stuff. Um, you could literally make a ship, and I believe there was a ship that they used out of vault assets. Once you're inside the ship, it's just vault assets, and you could use the dark texture, and you could have a fight with aliens on a ship. Um, I've got Nuka Mix textures. These right here are these are textures for the bottles of Nuka Cola. Makes them glow and makes them look different. And the Sovereign X, these are basically armors, vanilla clothes, armor, And this is the DLC armor, and then again, I wanted to say, I don't think I added. I was looking for the Super Mutant. I don't think I added um, Super Mutant there. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't added that yet because that's right here. Um, and that's because I was using Super Mutant Redux, but I may do this eventually just to kind of see, since I don't use wearable Super Mutant armor anymore, and the weapons. And then the weapons, I also use a Redux on the pipe weapons, which makes them look, man, 100% better. This is the region. This is the LOD gen stuff, where I regenerated the LOD. These are loose files. They can be packed up later, but right now they're set as loose until I decide that's kind of like how I want them to be. And there's other loose files as well. I believe there's IV. Let's see. We need to find loose IV here somewhere. Yeah, here you go, vines. So there's loose IV files, which, let's see if this works here. See, and it retextures the way Ivy looks. It's a higher res. It looks better. The same for Moss. I did the same for Moss. Let's go in here and take a look at this. See, and it puts like the mosses. You can have like brown moss. I picked the green moss, and it makes the rocks look really cool. It looks like lichens now. So it actually looks like moss and lichens. And the roads, to go back into the roads here, this is, let me see here. Let's find out what we need. All right. So the roads are, it is, let's see here. I think it's here. So I used Vivid Fallout, Roads and Bridges, and then I went ahead and installed the darker asphalt version. And you can see the asphalt looks different. So that's how I got the darker look to the asphalt. And the rocks, I believe the rocks are either Valius or that's Neil NMC, and it's the same for the debris piles. So he covered a lot of textures. I mean, it covered so many textures. Let me get away from her before she goes nuts. But so you don't have to listen to all that. But he basically redid a lot of these textures, and some of these cars are from Car Varieties, which makes it look like people were trying to get out of here in a hurry. So it is basically textures, and it is the image space modifier that natural atmospheric weathers. It's NAC. It's NAX. It's NAX. And the NAX affects the way water looks. I have water in here. There's actually let's see. It's let's find water real quick. That's just an LOD fix. Let's see. I have retextured water. Cough drop. That's those are these are the bottles of water that you drink. But what I'm looking for is wet. So you have wet here, and this provides water textures, so that enhances the water. And it also changes, there's other things. I'm not a water expert, but it provides, what do they call this again? I forget what they call this. It's where you have to actually compile. It's a shader. It provides a different shader effects. Okay, so there's that. And let me go over here where there's some buildings so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So that stuff in the distance was all, the LOD was generated by me. So it's a higher res LOD. Hey, so that makes it look better. Now the buildings, if you want to consider reshade, we'll take a look at reshade. So the only options that I use here on reshade is fake HDR, clarity, and levels. And that's pretty much it. The fake HDR and levels gives me the contrast, and then the clarity, which you can actually take that out, gives you a little bit better detail. So I'm going to show you what it looks like without it, because this way you can kind of see the building and you can see it in real time. So this takes out fake HDR. This is back in, and this is off. So you can kind of see these buildings back here, this building back in here, actually looks, see how the contrast actually helps.
What are you thinking about?
It lets the
Tell
colors
me
pop
if
a
you
little
need
bit.
anything else.
Levels also gives it a little, it drops everything down just a tad. So it might, it could be raised up a little bit, and it could be tweaked. Now these are the default settings because the railing is a little bit black, but that could be wrought iron, so that would be normal. And then if you looked at clarity, you can actually see what clarity does. You can actually see how it sharpens the light areas. And that gives me a little more contrast to the building. It's a little bit artificial in the way that it reflects light, because it probably wouldn't reflect light like that. But it does help things to stand out. See, check here where you got the grass.
How's it going?
And of course the grass, let me find clarity here. So of course the
It's really
grass, yeah,
warm
goes
for
on
this
and off,
time
and
of
this
year.
is on. The grass is, I gotta flip it twice to get rid of this other menu up here, because it's actually mapped to the same key. Okay, so the grass is Velt. It's a true grass, but I use Velt, so it's overwritten with Velt, and that's the grass that you see. It gives you the different varieties of grass, and the trees are Boston Natural Surroundings, but it's his newest version. It's not all like pine trees and conifers or things like that. I think it's pine trees. This adds trees that looks more like what you would see in, let's say, Fallout 76. And I didn't pick it because it was Fallout 76. It does add color. I personally like the darker green because the reds and oranges, really pop out against the green. And it just looks cooler to me when you're running through a pine forest rather than this. But this is his new mod, his new kind of plug-in. So I thought I'd give it a shot and see what it looks like, and just kind of check it out. I think I replaced these. I believe these are loose files. So I kind of, like I said, the ivy, the moss on the rocks, and some of these little plants are loose files that I replaced. So those are, those are loose files. Those are not BA2, so it won't show up in that texture section. And that's about it. Like I say, textures were not just to make it look better, but it was to give me an FPS boost, which it did. And given the fact that I'm running a 4K sized, it's actually pushing 5280, I think, horizontal, even though it's not true 5280, because it's actually doing, I think, 1440 res, but it's the monitor is actually stretching it out. It's being stretched because the game won't do that. It won't do a true 32 by 9 with 1440p. It just can't do it. Okay, so I hope that helps you see some of that. But yeah, it's contrast versus saturation, because that's one of the problems that the game had, and I think it's mostly fake HDR does that. And then some levels help to get it a little bit darker. Oh, the animal creatures you see, these things are, give me a second to grab this.
Hell yeah.
These are basically, these creatures are, I think, unique creatures, which gives a variety. It has a really nice variety to the animals. But there's also something that makes them do this, because technically these things should be hostile. I have no idea why they're not.
I'm sorry.
But technically they should be. But yeah, other than that, that's about what I have. People, I use, for people, I have to get rid of this. For people, I actually use the looks menu. It's the one with, I think it's the 2K version with real faces, although this doesn't really look real to me, so I'm not sure if the subsurface scattering or something is messed up on it. I'm not sure. I'd have to kind of take a look at it later and see and get comparison videos, but that's it. So hope that helps you with some of the the
It's
the
good.
graphics and the way the game
I
looks.
mean,
And
with you.
yeah, just holler at me if you
Just
need
this.
anything else. Let's go ahead and do